You know that feeling when you're so completely absorbed in something? Maybe it's crafting or playing an instrument, maybe wrestling with a really complex problem.
Hmm.
The world outside just kind of fades away, time disappears, and you're just in it.
Yeah,
That's the flow state, and it's something, well, I think we've probably all experienced it, even if we didn't have a name for it back then.
absolutely. It's quite universal.
So today, we're diving deep into this absolutely fascinating psychological phenomenon. We've pulled together insights from cutting edge neuroscience, some practical wisdom from productivity experts, and even looked at its surprisingly rich history.
Right.
Our mission here is really to unpack what flow is,
Hmm.
what's genuinely happening in your brain when you're in it, the incredible benefits, how you might reliably achieve it, and maybe even some lesser known bits like potential downsides and how it works in groups.
Sounds great. There's a lot to cover there.
Okay, let's jump right in. We all have these moments, these anecdotes, right? Being in the zone. You think of a gymnast just nailing a routine, or an artist adding those delicate final brushstrokes, maybe a writer crafting a climax where the words just sort of appear.
Yeah, that feeling of effortlessness.
Exactly. Bill Russell, the legendary NBA player and coach, he described it as playing as if we were playing in slow motion. This kind of all-consuming mental state, it's captivated people for decades. But how did we get from, these personal stories to a formal psychological concept?
Well, what's fascinating here is exactly how these intense focused experiences started to be understood scientifically. It wasn't immediate.
Right.
First, you had the psychologist Abraham Maslow, way back in 1964. He coined the term peak experience. That was about moments of heightened concentration and self-actualization.
Okay, peak experience, I've heard that.
Then, in 1975, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he was a Hungarian-American psychologist, he really formalized the concept we now call flow.
Ah, okay, so he's the flow guy.
He's the flow guy, yeah. He noticed people often described feeling carried on by the flow, almost like a current in a river, when they were in this state of, optimal performance.
Carried by the flow. I like that imagery.
Yeah. And he defined it quite simply as a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter.
Nothing else matters. So, if someone's maybe never truly felt this, or perhaps only had a glimmer of it, what are the absolute telltale signs, those core sensations that define it? Is it just like extreme focus, or is it something more?
It's definitely more than just focus. I mean, intense concentration is a key component, absolutely.
Hmm.
Your attention narrows to a laser point on the task.
Right.
But it's coupled with this incredible merging of action and awareness. You're not thinking about what you're doing, you're just doing it. It becomes spontaneous,
Yeah.
almost automatic.
That sounds like a real release. I've heard people describe it as losing their sense of self. Is that what you mean by loss of self-consciousness?
Exactly that. Your ego, that inner critic, that voice judging everything, it just fades away. And many people describe that as truly liberating. And with that, you often get a distorted sense of time. Hours can feel like minutes, or sometimes intense moments can feel stretched out, prolonged.
Yeah, I've definitely lost hours coding before.
Right. And then there's the intrinsic motivation. Csikszentmihalyi called this an autotelic experience.
Autotelic. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It means the activity itself is so enjoyable, it becomes its own reward. You do it for the sheer sake of doing it, not for, external praise or payment or anything else.
So the reward is in the doing. What about control? Do you feel like you're fighting the current, or are you completely in charge?
You feel completely in charge. There's a strong sense of personal control over this situation. And importantly, you get immediate feedback.
Ah, okay.
You constantly know how well you're doing, and you can adjust on the fly, whether it's, hitting the right note, finding the perfect word, or adjusting your grip on a tool.
That makes sense. Constant micro adjustments.
Exactly. But I think the real cornerstone, the thing that truly helps understand flow and sets it apart from just, say, deep focus, is this perfect balance between challenge and skill.
The sweet spot.
That's it, the sweet spot. The task has to be hard enough to be engaging, keep you on your toes, but not so hard it causes anxiety, frustration.
Right, not overwhelming.
And definitely not so easy that it leads to boredom. It's finding that perfect edge.
So it's not just what you're doing, but how perfectly matched that task is to your current abilities at that moment. That makes so much sense for deep engagement and, I guess, pushing yourself forward, too.
Precisely. And if we connect that back to the autotelic experience, the whole intrinsic motivation piece, it's incredibly powerful.
How so?
Well, that idea of intrinsic motivation is particularly profound because it drives sustainable engagement. It makes activities deeply fulfilling, and it pushes you towards mastery without needing external rewards like grades or bonuses.
Right.
This is really what differentiates flow from just, buckling down and focusing hard.
Mm.
It's that element of deep satisfaction, that feeling of flourishing.
That's a fantastic overview of the experience of flow. But for a lot of us, the big question is, okay, what's actually happening in our brains when we hit that zone? I know this has been a bit of a scientific puzzle for decades, but you mentioned new research is finally giving us some clearer answers.
Absolutely. It's been debated for over 40 years.
Mhm.
Historically, we had a couple of main contenders for which brain networks were driving flow.
Okay.
There was the default mode network, the DMN, which is usually active when we're daydreaming or mind-wandering, thinking about ourselves.
Right. The me network.
Kind of, yeah. And then there's the executive control network, the ECN. That's our brain's problem solver, the part that helps us focus, plan, and tune out distractions.
So the get stuff done network?
Exactly. And for a long time, one popular theory suggested a kind of hyperfocus state during flow. The idea was the ECN would ramp up, increase its activity,
Right.
to sort of guide or even force the DMN to generate ideas relevant to the task.
Ah, so it was seen as requiring more cognitive effort, more control?
That was the thinking, yes. A state of highly directed mental effort.
But then, the jazz guitarists, they came along and threw a fascinating wrench in that theory, didn't they?
They really did.
Mm.
A groundbreaking study published just recently in March 2024 in Neuropsychology challenged that whole idea.
Yeah.
Researchers at Drexel University studied 32 jazz guitarists.
Okay.
Some were highly experienced, others less so, and they had them improvise while their brains are scanned using EEG caps.
So improvising, that's a classic potential flow activity,
Right,
right?
definitely. And what they found for the experienced musicians when they were in a state of high flow was really surprising. They showed a decrease in activity in both the ECN and the DMN.
Wait, decreased activity in both the control network and the self-reflection network. That seems completely counterintuitive to how I imagine intense focus would work. Can you elaborate on why letting go seems key here, especially for the experts?
It really flipped our understanding on its head. Instead of more activity in those executive or default mode networks, there was actually increased activity in regions processing auditory, visual, and movement information, the areas directly related to playing the guitar.
Hmm.
So this suggests that during flow, experienced individuals aren't trying harder to consciously focus or force ideas. They actually let go. They shift into a kind of skilled autopilot.
Autopilot.
Yeah, relying on the neural pathways that have been honed through years and years of practice.
Mhm.
It's almost like their expertise allows their conscious brain, the effortful part, to get out of the way.
So the practice laid the groundwork, and flow is letting that groundwork take over.
Beautifully put. And interestingly, the less experienced musicians didn't show this same pattern, which implies that developing that expertise, that mastery, is really crucial for achieving this specific brain state of flow.
That's a powerful shift in understanding. Less effortful control, more trust and practice skill. And it's not just about those networks. You mentioned the prefrontal cortex earlier. What's special about that part of the brain, and why is less activity there a good thing for flow?
Right, the prefrontal cortex. Think of it as our brain's CEO. It's responsible for higher level stuff like self-monitoring, judgment, complex planning, and our sense of self, our ego.
Okay, the big boss.
Pretty much. So during flow, we see something called transient hypofrontality.
Transient hypofrontality. Okay, break that down.
It just means a temporary reduction. Hypo means less. Frontality refers to the frontal lobe in the activity of this prefrontal cortex. It's like the CEO goes on a brief coffee break.
Huh. Okay, and why is that good?
Because it frees you from that constant inner critic, that self-doubt, the overthinking, the second-guessing that can often paralyze us or slow us down. It quiets down. You just do, without constantly evaluating or judging your actions in the moment.
Like temporarily silencing your inner editor.
Exactly, allowing for more uninhibited creation and action.
It certainly sounds like a state of mental liberation. And what about that feeling of effortlessness we often hear about? Are there other neurochemical changes happening that contribute to that feeling?
Indeed, there are. We see an increased release of dopamine during flow. Now, dopamine isn't just about pleasure. It's a powerful motivator. It boosts satisfaction, keeps you engaged, makes you want to continue.
Right, the reward chemical?
Partly, but also the motivation chemical. And there's also evidence for enhanced neuroplasticity during flow, meaning your brain's ability to learn and form new connections is actually strengthened in this state.
So you're performing well and getting better simultaneously.
Potentially, yes. And even the body seems to cooperate. There was a study with classical pianists in flow, and it showed they had decreased heart rate and blood pressure, along with more relaxed facial muscles, even as their performance objectively improved.
Wow, so less physical stress despite peak performance.
But precisely. It really supports this idea of effortless attention, effortless action.
Okay, so we know what flow is. We have a better idea of what's happening in our brains, physiologically, neurochemically. But why should I, as a listener, actively try to cultivate this state? What's the real payoff beyond just, feeling good in the moment?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the benefits are truly profound. They impact pretty much everything from your work performance to your overall happiness and well-being.
Okay, lay some on me. What's the big one?
What peak productivity is a huge one. There was a 10-year longitudinal study highlighted in a 2020 report in Behavioral Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
It showed people in flow states were, get this, an astonishing 500% more productive.
500%. That's staggering. Is that just in specific high-performance jobs, or is that more general?
It seems to apply across many different fields.
Yeah.
It's a massive boost. And it's not just about getting more done. Flow also leads to accelerated learning and skill development.
How does that work?
Because that challenge-skill balance we talked about, it constantly pushes you right to the edge of your current abilities. And that edge is the most effective place to learn and grow.
Makes sense. You're stretching, but not snapping.
Exactly. There's a study, for example, at Alexandria University.
Yeah.
It showed that mental training, including visualization techniques designed to induce flow-like states, helped novice tennis and field hockey players significantly improve specific skills like their forehand, backhand, and push-pass performance.
Interesting. So it's not just about performing better now, but also about getting better faster for the future.
Precisely. And tied into that is enhanced creativity and problem solving.
Ah, because the inner critic is offline.
That's a big part of it. By silencing that inner critic and fostering this deep immersion, flow allows your brain to make novel connections, see things differently, leading to breakthroughs you might not have reached otherwise.
Okay. Productivity, learning, creativity. What else?
Well, because it's an intrinsically rewarding autotelic experience, as we discussed, flow significantly contributes to increased happiness and overall life satisfaction. Csikszentmihalyi often called it the pinnacle of human experience.
The pinnacle. Wow. And I can definitely see how that total absorption would leave no room for, say, worrying or ruminating.
That's exactly right, which leads to another major benefit: reduce stress and anxiety. The total focus required for flow means your mind simply has no bandwidth left for worry or negative self-talk. It's a powerful antidote to modern stressors, almost like a built-in coping skill.
A mental escape hatch from stress.
In a productive way, yes. And finally, regularly achieving flow boosts your confidence and motivation. Each time you enter flow and accomplish something challenging, it fosters a sense of competence, self-efficacy, and that intrinsic drive to keep persisting and growing.
And I imagine this isn't just about individual gains, right? If people in an organization are finding flow more often.
Absolutely. These benefits scale up.
Yep.
They extend to organizations, leading to higher collective productivity, more innovation, better employee development, and ultimately contributing to overall workplace effectiveness.
Yeah.
It really is a win-win situation.
Okay, with such powerful benefits, it almost sounds, well, too good to be true. It makes you assume flow is always good and maybe only accessible to, elite athletes or artists. But let's dig into some important nuances here. Are there common misconceptions or even, dare I say, dangers associated with chasing flow?
This raises a really important question. And yes, there are definitely nuances and potential downsides to be aware of. Let's tackle 3 common myths first.
Okay, hit me. Myth number 1.
Myth number 1. Flow only happens to Olympians or geniuses or rock stars. The reality, as we touched on earlier, is that it's a universal human experience. It's accessible across all ages, genders, cultures, and skill levels. You can find flow gardening, coding, playing chess, cooking, even doing mundane tasks sometimes if you approach them right.
Right, I can definitely relate to that. My gardening sometimes gets me there. Okay, so that brings us to myth number 2. Flow is always a good thing. What's the catch?
Well, while it's generally very positive, flow is an incredibly powerful force, and like any powerful force, it can have downsides. We'll circle back to that.
Okay, and the third myth.
Myth number 3. Flow only happens to individuals. This is also false.
Yeah.
There's a well-documented phenomenon called group flow or team flow.
Group flow, like a band perfectly in sync. Oh.
Exactly like that. Or a surgical team, a brainstorming group, a basketball team moving as one unit. Is where the group works with this almost contagious attitude of invincibility, sensing and feeling as one, like they're sharing a single heartbeat. This collective state can massively enhance team potential and performance.
Fascinating. Okay, let's circle back to that second myth, the idea that flow isn't always good. What are these potential dangers? It sounds like such a positive, engaging experience.
The dangers arise precisely because it's so immersive and engaging. When you're deep in a flow state,
Yeah.
you can literally, as Csikszentmihalyi put it, lose touch with the condition of your body.
Lose touch. How so?
Think about a writer, totally absorbed. They might work for hours and hours, completely skipping lunch, ignoring a building headache, just not noticing the passage of time or their basic physical needs.
Yeah, I mentioned my coding binges. Suddenly it's 3 p.m., I haven't eaten or had water. It feels great mentally, but then you sort of wake up and feel physically rough.
That's a common,
Yeah.
relatively mild example. But it can get more serious. Think about the runner's high, which is often associated with flow. That feeling can become genuinely addictive due to the endorphin release.
Addictive.
Yes, potentially leading to real, significant consequences to your health. If it pushes you to consistently ignore pain signals or overtrain past your physical limits.
Chasing the feeling over health.
Exactly. And Csikszentmihalyi himself warned about this. He said flow, while incredibly enriching, can become a kind of trap. He noted it has the potential for a negative effect. While they are capable of improving the quality of existence by creating order in the mind, they can become addictive.
Addictive to that specific order.
Right. At which point the self becomes captive of a certain kind of order and is then unwilling to cope with the ambiguities of life. You might neglect other important areas of life because you're only seeking that flow state in one activity.
Wow, that's a sobering thought.
It is. And it's also important to distinguish flow from something like hyperfocus, which isn't always beneficial. Hyperfocus can sometimes lead to spending way too much time on one specific detail, losing sight of the bigger picture, or starting loads of projects without finishing them. This pattern is sometimes seen in conditions like ADHD, and it's different from the balanced, productive state of flow.
So it requires a certain mindfulness, doesn't it? Even within the flow, or at least around it, to make sure it serves you, rather than you just serving the state itself.
That's a great way to put it. Self-awareness is still key.
Okay. Given all we've learned, the definition, the brain science, the amazing benefits, and now these potential pitfalls, how can you, our listener, consciously invite more flow into your life, whether it's at work, in your hobbies, wherever?
Well, at its core, consciously cultivating flow really boils down to consistently meeting those three essential conditions we talked about much earlier.
Let me see if I remember. Clear goals,
Yep, that's one.
immediate feedback,
That's two.
and the big one, finding that perfect balance between the challenge you perceive and the skills you perceive you have.
You got it. If you can deliberately engineer situations where those three conditions are met, you're well on your way to experiencing more flow.
Okay, so let's unpack some really practical, actionable strategies based on our sources. We can break them down maybe into environment, mindset, and tasks.
Sounds like a good plan. Environment first.
Yeah. We're bombarded by distractions these days, phones buzzing, emails popping up. What's the absolute first thing listeners should do to tackle that external noise?
The very first, most impactful change. Ruthlessly eliminate distractions. Turn off all notifications, phone, computer, smartwatch, everything.
All of them? Seriously?
Seriously, close unnecessary browser tabs. Even better, consider putting your phone in a completely different room while you work. Out of sight, out of mind really helps.
Okay, phone exiled. What else for the environment?
Aim to create a kind of sacred space for deep work. Designate a physical area, make sure it's clean, organized, a place where you're less likely to be disturbed. Signal to yourself and others that this is focus time.
Like a flow dojo.
Yeah, something like that. And crucially, prepare thoroughly before you start. Get everything you might need ready, your equipment, water, notes, research materials. Why? So you don't have to break concentration mid-flow to go find something.
Good point. That breaks the spell immediately. Any tools? Like noise-canceling headphones.
Absolutely. Noise-canceling headphones are great. Some people find instrumental music helps, maybe a familiar movie soundtrack where there are no lyrics to distract. White noise machines or apps, even binaural beats can work for some people too. Experiment and see what helps you tune out the world.
That's great advice. So once the environment is, dialed in, how do we prepare our mindset? Because sometimes even with a perfect setup, our own thoughts, our anxieties, our boredom, they can be the biggest distraction, right?
They absolutely can. Our internal environment matters just as much. One really powerful tool here is practicing mindfulness regularly.
Meditation.
Meditation is a great way, yeah. It strengthens your attention muscle. It helps you notice when your mind wanders off, which it will.
Yeah.
And then Gently, non-judgmentally bring it back to your point of focus, like your breath.
Building the focus muscle. Okay, what about anxiety? Those what-if thoughts that can derail focus.
Yeah, managing anxiety is key. If those what-if thoughts arise, learn to challenge and reframe them. Ask yourself, what's the evidence? Play out the worst-case scenario often. It's not nearly as bad as your anxious mind makes it out to be. Or try visualizing the best possible outcome instead.
Flipping the script.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can also practice something called cognitive reappraisal, basically, reframing how you interpret physical stress symptoms. So that racing heart, instead of thinking, oh no, I'm panicking, reframe it as, okay, my body is getting energized for this challenge. And boosting confidence helps too. Reflect on your strengths. Remember past successes.
Okay, good strategies. What about the other side of the coin? Not anxiety, but just demotivation or boredom with a task. How do you find flow then?
That's tough, but doable. First, try to rekindle your why. Why did you start this task or project in the first place? What's the deeper meaning or purpose for you? Make it personally relevant again.
Connect back to the motivation.
Right. Or adopt a curious mindset.
Mhm.
Try to find something novel or interesting, even in a tedious task. Can you do it differently? More
Yeah.
efficiently? Can you learn something new from it?
Inject novelty.
Yes. There's also the eat the frog technique. Tackle your most dreaded task first thing in the morning. Get it out of the way. Or use mental contrasting.
Right.
Vividly compare how you'll feel if you procrastinate versus how you'll feel once you've actually accomplished the task. And if it's simple fatigue, sometimes activating breathing techniques like quick, sharp inhales can actually help re-energize you.
Those are fantastic, really practical tips. So environment set, mind prepared. The final piece seems to be how we strategically approach the tasks themselves to hit that challenge skill sweet spot. What are the top strategies there?
Definitely. The absolute first one is set crystal clear goals for each work session. Before you start, define a single, specific, measurable outcome. Not vague like work on the report.
No more like.
More like, write the 500-word introduction for the report and find 3 supporting statistics for section 2. Super specific, you know exactly when you're done.
Right, clarity eliminates ambiguity. What's next?
Second, actively find your sweet spot of challenge for that specific task. If it feels too hard, too overwhelming, break it down ruthlessly into smaller, manageable microtasks. Focus on just the very next step.
Chunk it down.
Precisely. And if it feels too easy, too boring, you need to add challenge. Give yourself a time constraint, finish it 10% faster. Try using a new, more advanced technique, aim for a significantly higher standard of quality, or just introduce an element of novelty or playfulness.
So you're constantly adjusting the difficulty dial to stay engaged.
That's the art of it. Keep it stimulating but achievable.
Brilliant. What else is key for tasks?
Third, build in immediate feedback loops. If the task doesn't naturally provide clear, instant feedback on how you're doing, create one.
How?
It could be simple, like a word counter if you're writing, a progress bar for a coding task, maybe setting mini milestones and checking them off, even building in a quick self-quiz after learning something new. You need that constant signal. Am I on track?
Okay. Goals, challenge, feedback, anything else?
Yes. Managing your time structure helps. Methods like the Pomodoro technique, working in focused bursts, say 25 minutes, then a short break, can really help maintain concentration without burnout.
It's rupturing the focus.
Right. And critically, know your own peak hours.
Huh.
When are you naturally most alert, most creative, most focused? For many people, it's the morning, but not everyone. Identify your prime time and protect it fiercely for your most demanding, flow-seeking tasks.
Schedule flow like an important meeting.
Essentially, yes. Treat your focus time as valuable. And what's really fascinating here, host speaker, is that research on flow training, especially for elite athletes, backs this up.
Oh, yeah.
Studies show that psychological interventions, things like guided imagery, even hypnosis in some cases, and particularly mindfulness practices, can demonstrably improve athletes' ability to enter flow states and enhance their performance.
So it's trainable.
Very much so.
Yeah.
The strongest effect, consistently, seems to come from mindfulness interventions. It strongly suggests that flow isn't just some random accidental occurrence. It's a skill, a state that can be actively cultivated and trained, especially when the training is tailored to the individual. Sometimes they even have the athlete co-lead their own development plan.
That's incredibly empowering, isn't it? Knowing it's something we can actively work on, not just hope for. And you mentioned this extends beyond individuals, even into the workplace, through something called flow leadership.
Yes, exactly. This concept is gaining traction. It's about leaders and organizations consciously creating environments that foster flow. Companies like Tremendous, for example, have talked openly about this.
What do they do?
They prioritize what they call the 3 Ps: people, purpose, and performance. Practically, this means things like minimizing unnecessary meetings, which are huge flow killers.
Tell me about it.
Right. Promoting really high standards of documentation so people have the information they need without constant interruptions. And crucially, giving employees significant autonomy to structure their own days and work blocks.
Letting people find their own rhythm.
Exactly. And they report their engineers, their CEO, their writers. They all find significant benefits: better code quality, reduced anxiety, higher job satisfaction, all by finding their individual flow triggers and being allowed to work in those deep focus blocks. It's a powerful testament to designing work for, not against it.
So there you have it. The flow state. A truly universal experience, it seems, where challenge and skill align perfectly to create this feeling of effortless excellence and, well, profound enjoyment. It's clearly a powerful tool, not just for cranking out more work, but for deeper learning, sparking creativity, and honestly, for boosting our overall well-being.
Absolutely. And I think the key takeaway from our deep dive today is that flow isn't usually an accident. It doesn't just happen to you most of the time.
Yeah.
It's often a product of intention.
Intention, I like that.
Yeah. By understanding its components, the goals, the feedback, that crucial challenge-skill balance, and by deliberately engineering your environment, your mindset, and your tasks, you can really move from being just a passive participant hoping for flow to becoming an active architect of your most engaged, most fulfilling moments.
Working deeper, not just harder.
That's the essence of it.
Okay, so for your own deep dive this week, here's a challenge for you listening. How can you consciously integrate just one of these techniques we talked about into your day? Maybe it's silencing notifications for just 1 hour. Maybe it's breaking down that daunting task you've been avoiding into tiny, manageable steps. Or perhaps it's simply taking 30 seconds before you start something to recall your why, your purpose for doing it.
Small steps can make a big difference.
Exactly. Try one thing to unlock a deeper, potentially more satisfying experience in your work or your hobbies. Think about not just what you do, but really how you do it.